Good morning, everyone. It is August 15th. I personally am feeling a little overwhelmed that it is already August. It is the 8th month unto the year, which means that we're almost to the fourth quarter of the year, which means we're almost to the end of the year, which feels very strange. I don't want necessarily 8 months back, but I do just want to take a moment to honor the fact that it is August already. So the good thing about August is that September is around the corner. And what that means for many, many, many music teachers, voice teachers included, is that you are in that special time of making sure that your studio is filled to the brim, or at least filled a little bit to the brim or to the halfway point. You are in the process of doing fall onboarding. So you're reaching out to your clients, you're having new people come to you based on word of mouth or any marketing that you've done over the summer. You're starting your term in the fall, and now you have a deluge of amazingness coming unto you. And you get to start going through the process of turning them from people who are maybe curious about how wonderful you are into people who pay you some money to be amazing for them. And so today we are going to talk about that little chunk of process that is, it's like a hidden gem of processes. It is a hidden gem. It is the process of getting someone from reaching out to you to a signed contract. So we say from contact to contract. This is the art of the inquiry. And today I have an extremely special guest, someone who is not only my colleague, but is my friend and a team member, and someone who loves to chat stuff like this. Miss Wonderful, Amazing Sara Campbell.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Thanks for that fabulous intro, Michelle.
I made it up as I went along.
Yay.
So we're here today to talk about the art of the inquiry, and then also to tell you about something we're super proud about that will help you with this more than a live could, because you're going to be taking furious notes. What I'm telling you today is you don't have to take furious notes, because what we're going to talk about is reiterated in the book that I wrote, that Sara formatted, and that we learned lots of so many things about formatting with. So what a learning curve that was. Hi, and I want to say hi to everyone in the chat. If you are here today, tell us where you're from, tell us why you're here and what you're hoping that we cover, and we'll try to get that in. Put your questions as soon as you think of them in the chat, and then we'll go back. And Sara, you can see the chat right now or no?
Yes, I can.
Great, fantastic.
I see Karen and Elizabeth there, so nice to see you both.
I know.
I have another call to action. Can I throw it out there?
Yeah, do it, please.
Okay, so Michelle just mentioned that she wrote a book, and y'all, this book is bonkers amazing.
Thank you, Sara.
So if you have not seen the Art of the Inquiry book yet, and you haven't gotten access to it, if you would like to get a hold of that, pop the word inquiry down below, and one of the team members will reach out to you and make sure that you can get a hold of the link where you can purchase.
Thank you so much for that delicious call to action. I love it. Okay, so Sara, I'm going to toss this one to you. Our first question is, what, in your perspective, how would you define what the heck actually is an inquiry process? What does that even mean?
So this is something that I think many of us don't really consider when we first open our studios. We're just so concerned with like making sure that people know we're there and, getting people in the door. We don't think through systematizing the process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you wrote about. I mean, you really put this all down in a very specific format. So for me, like the inquiry process, it starts with that first initial contact when somebody reaches out to you, and that may take many different forms. It could be like a text message because somebody shared your cell phone number.
Seriously.
Or it could be somebody messaging you on like your Facebook page or maybe an email or, oh my goodness, an actual phone call.
Gasp!
Gasp and horror for some people.
What is that? The horror, right? So I might have to speak words. Well, okay, awesome. My definition of an inquiry process is just that. Like, how do you go from contact to contract? But I'm going to be straight with all the people listening. This is sales. Don't be scared and don't run away. Still stay on the live. Don't be scared. But really, the inquiry process is kind of that first customer service that you do that is sales. And one of the things that I love about inquiry processes in businesses that are like that are solopreneurs or small or like multi-teacher studios that still have the owner actively engaged is that the sales becomes the customer service because you understand what you're delivering. You really buy in to your offer and your product, if you will, your service and what you can do. Whereas in a larger corporation, we think of sales and we have these teams and teams of people who are responsible for selling this thing that they had no involvement in creating. Right. And that can feel a little weird. This is why when you're learning about corporate sales, like if you've ever done any sort of corporate sales training, they're like, you have to believe in the product. Because if you don't, then you're going to come off all weird, like you're trying to press something that isn't actually helpful. Well, when we are the people providing the service and or product, like this book, right? We can be totally bought in because we did it and we're proud of it. And there's an energy behind it. So to me, the inquiry process is scary word sales.
It's true. It's true. But if you understand, like what you just said, if you understand the offer, you know it inside and out, and you know how that offer, if matched up with the right person, can transform their life, it's so much easier to have those conversations.
And that's a perfect segue to this. My formatting got dumb, but y'all love us anyway. So that's a perfect segue, Sara, to what is the goal of the inquiry process? And can you talk a little bit more about knowing your offer and kind of what you see in our clients in SpeakEasy and also your own one-on-one clients? What do you see when it comes to offers? Because I know what I see, and I'm curious what you see.
So for people who have a really clear understanding about what their offer is, the inquiry process just becomes very easy because you're going to know who would benefit from this offer. And also, like the flip side of that, who is not good for this offer.
Louder for the people in the very back. Louder for the people folding laundry.
I like those people.
I know, me too. I am those people in many other people's lives. In your lives, Sara, I am folding. No, keep going. Keep going. I love it.
So the people who understand the offer, like it's easier for them. Now, let's talk about what happens when you don't understand your offer and you don't also part of that you don't understand your ideal client.
Right.
That's where the inquiry process gets kind of muddy and maybe frustrating for you, frustrating for the client. And you end up with what you like to call warm bodies rather than like perfect fits.
Yeah. I see this too. And I know because you're a marketing coach and that's like your niche that you focus a lot on is marketing, even though you're so great at so many things. I know you and I have a lot of conversations about how people want to like rush into marketing. And then you and I will say like, great, what are you selling and who are you selling it to? And it's just crickets, right? And it's not because there's not a sense, but it's just this idea that, well, I sell music lessons or I sell voice lessons. And it's like, well, okay, but so do a million other people. And that's not bad. But what does it mean to take voice with you? What does it mean to take piano with you? Because I know we've got your audience coming in here today too, Sara. Banjo. What does it mean to hang out with you? And I love Simon Bowen's 5 Ps. He's a big marketing guy and he's from Australia. He's really cool. Check out Simon Bowen's work after you check out our work. But he has the 5 Ps that I talk about a lot. And that is like, people need to know who you are, your personhood, they need to know the promise that you're making. Like, what is the results of your offer? What does it bring? What transformation does it bring? Then this is the big one. What's the process? Like, this would be an example. Are you tuition? Are you punch card? Are you pay per service? Do you have all 3 of those? Which, by the way, hint, hint, I think is a good idea to have 3 different containers, right? 3 different ways that we package our product. Then the price. If you've nailed who you are, communicating who you are, you've nailed the results that you can bring, that you're confident about because of your skill set and your expertise, and also just track record. And then you nail that kind of perfect fit for that client in terms of the container. Do you want a tall, a venti, or a grande, right? The perfect size offer. And then the price becomes relatively irrelevant. So it's interesting because we had a question in Seco. Sarah, I don't know if you saw it because I know we usually break over the weekend for admin, but someone was saying, like, when do I send my prices? And it's like, you shouldn't be sending prices until you are sure that this person understands who you are, understands what results that you can bring, and understands the container in which you're going to do it. I understand that people want a budget, right? I understand that people want to budget. However, if the first question out of someone's mouth is how much does it cost, what that communicates to you is that that person doesn't actually understand what they're paying for. And that they're using a rubric of sales decision-making process for they're imposing that rubric onto something that they don't understand. You can say, I want a new calculator. How much is this calculator? Because you know
have
what
an
you're buying.
actual calculator.
I do. Her name is Tina.
Hi, Tina.
But I'm saying you know what you're buying. So you can say, I know that I need a calculator. How much do I want to spend on it? I know what I'm going to get. You get to the store, you see some little features that might change your mind. But generally speaking, you know how much you're going to spend for a calculator because you know what a calculator is. You can't use that process when you're purchasing a service, especially from a human. But your clients maybe they don't know that yet. Maybe they don't know that. So if you're really hung up on sharing prices, you can always say, it depends. Here's the process. What is the goal of the inquiry process? To do the P's, right? To get them to know you, to get them to understand what transformations that you bring, understand what your offer is, understand who you are in relation to what they need. And then does the container fit? Is it the right size offer for what they need? And then the pricing. So that's the goal. The goal is to get people to understand what you do, not just to tell people your prices. Exactly. In a multi-teacher studio, I'm going off a little bit, and then I'm going to shut up and let you talk. So in a multi-teacher studio, it can be a little different because the expectation of the client is different. The expectation of a client when they're engaging a multi-teacher studio is that this thing is on volume. There's going to be many people engaging with the offer. And so they are coming to be part of a large volume offer on purpose. And they are not using the same kind of things to decide what to do. So you may want to put your pricing on your website. Another thing is, my studio puts pricing on the website as a vetting tool. Because this sounds kind of obnoxious, but I don't have time to be telling people that I'm expensive for people. I'm not expensive for everyone. Expensive is a relative term, of course. But when I want to grow my studio, when I'm I want 4 more voice students pronto, I go right back to this inquiry process. So, okay, sorry. Well, I'm not sorry because I'm really passionate about this,
Don't
obviously.
apologize.
But you jump in now and talk and tell me what you think about that.
Well, before I do that, I do want to turn to the comments
Oh
here
yeah,
because there
do
are
it.
quite a few people saying some things. I want to shout out Megan because she said she was feeling
Wait, I'm
really
just gonna.
stressed yesterday about getting the studio in order after returning from vacation, so that this was perfect timing.
Yay, Megan.
Yay.
Hi, Megan.
That's awesome.
I don't know how to make this
Oh,
smaller.
there you go.
Yay.
And we also had a question from Wendy. She asks, is there a hardcover inquiry process book? Not yet.
Not yet. So this is talk about inquiry processes. If we want this to be like like use another publisher or
Mhm.
self-publish through kind of a co-publishing situation. By the way, you can talk to Daniel Shigo. He's in the comments. He does this. We have to sell. We have to go and sell our ideas to a publisher and then see if they'll get on board. We are considering doing some Amazon level self-publishing. At this point, I'll be straight with you. I have not yet found an ROI that feels worth it to me from an official publisher. So there's prestige attached to that. Like if a big publisher like Penguin or something like that, but
Yeah,
we'd have to hire, gosh, Sarah, who would we have to hire? We'd have to hire an agent. We'd have to get that. That's a very different process. So the short
it
answer
is.
is no. The long answer is maybe someday.
And also, the digital format is just
Mhm.
beautiful. If you haven't seen it yet, the digital format is amazing, and we do have some links throughout it. So there are some benefits to having this in a non-hard copy format for now. And if you read it on an iPad or something like that,
Mhm.
it's perfect. And there's always the possibility of printing it out.
So it's funny you said that about printing it out. It is 60 pages, but what I did for a client of mine, a physical client of mine, is I went in and I PDF'd it and then I printed out the like some of it back to back and some of it just one-sided so that when it's all together in the binder, there's notes.
Oh, I like that.
They take notes on the back page. And then so the stuff that's all just information they can read through. But then the pages that have, because we give you like what to do. So here's your quick look. Let me see if I can. I didn't set this up. So we could have a very dangerous situation right now.
Are you trying to screen share?
I am, but I need to find show comments and reactions. Okay, this might go very bad very fast because y'all are going to see everything.
I can do it if you need me
Oh,
to.
you can do it on that side?
Yeah, I think I should be able to. Give
I
me a
have it
moment.
up. I have the thing. Now I don't know how to get back. This is why we have Sara Campbell on our things, because Sara Campbell
I like
knows.
tech stuff.
I like tech stuff. I just don't take the time to prepare myself properly, which is something that Sarah is constantly encouraging me to do better.
Are you good?
You are. Okay. Do you want to get it up? I have the tab.
Give me a moment.
Okay. And then I can also
it.
I'll do this. I'll drop this in the link. Okay. We should get down to business to defeat the Huns.
Okay.
And talk about, so when you have it, let me know.
Oh, it says I'm not allowed because I'm not using Google Chrome. But of course, Google
Okay.
Chrome didn't work for me
Sure,
me today. So
course.
whatever.
Of course. So let's go. Hey, Christine, let's go ahead and before we show the book, let's talk about our last kind of really important question, which is like, what are your 3 steps? Right. And then I'd love for you to kind of go through what we have found to be the best 3 steps, even though the horror, it might involve a phone call. Hi, Meow.
We have a visitor. That's
because
Freya. Everybody say hello to Freya.
Hi, Freya. Freya is very good at the inquiry process. She adds value to Sarah's sales calls.
And she's really good at boundaries.
Oh, wow. Okay. Chrome didn't work either for me to watch. Interesting. Okay.
Maybe there's some updates that need to happen.
I know. All right. So what do we feel is the first step? I'm going to put that.
We'll bring our question up. So are you asking me what do I feel is the first step, or
Yeah, like we could do that, or we can talk about what the book says is the first step, because there's a couple ways to do it. But basically, the discovery, like, what is the discovery?
Mhm. So we're talking about the initial inquiry here, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like figuring out what does that look like in your studio, and that can look different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I I have like a couple first steps. I do some vetting via email. I
Mm.
often get on the phone with people, and then I will set up what I call an interview lesson. So I get to actually have them in the studio in person. And that's my first step. What about you, Michelle?
My first step is immediately sending them somewhere to book a discovery call. And that's how I both save time and vet at the same time. Because if someone is going to take the time to fill out my questions and say, I'm going to get a dedicated time on the calendar to talk to you, that
Mhm.
tells me that they're probably pretty serious about moving forward. So here's the deal. And we talk about this a little bit in the book, and what Sara is explaining that she does, and what this is this idea of free firsts. So in
Yeah.
sales, this is called a loss leader. And the reality is you will always be doing something for free up front in order to gain a client. Always. So your choice becomes, do I want to have kind of control over that process in terms of my time, my energy, how it's happening, the way that I can track that, keep on top of it? Or do I want to just kind of let it come and hit my face as it like comes in? And what I find is that for me and my personality, if I need some time to think about what this person wants, I want to vet using a booked call. Now, as
Mhm.
we said in the book, you don't have to use a scheduler. Like if that's too much for you right now and you don't want that, you can have a templated email
Yeah.
that basically says, great, fantastic. The first step is, and we want to encourage people to let people know that there's a process and not just jump to like, great, come on into a lesson. I guarantee you will feel less prepared and more overwhelmed if you just go from text message to lesson than
Yeah.
if you have a little bit more information. What
I
happens? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually kind of forgot about to mention one of the steps in my first step, because I'm going to be honest, it's been 3 years since I've been accepted a new student. I'm not accepting any new students right now. One of my vetting processes is that no matter how somebody would find me, whether it was like a text or they'd call or, they'd email or whatever, I would always send them to a registration form on my website
There you go. Mm-hmm.
because it had a series of questions. And then once they filled that out, um, then I could ask them some more questions. So there's so many ways to do it.
There are. It really comes down to, what do you value in
Yeah.
your personal daily life? So if you value efficiency, you want a lot of time back, you're probably going to do something highly automated. You're going to do something where your schedule is planned for you via a scheduler that you've already decided. If you're a little bit more flexible with your time and you like to be involved with every process because that makes you feel good, do that. If you're trying to save money, if you're just starting out in a new place, or you have a new studio that you're just opening and you're trying to kind of cut costs and you don't want to invest in a scheduler quite yet, there are free options. I think the
Yep.
goal here with your first step is that you're finding out up front, is this person a tire kicker? Or
Yeah.
is this person really ready to go forward to become a client? Your first step is getting the person into some sort of informational container to find out if you should even bother, or if they should even bother.
True.
Maybe
Because
you're not the right person.
yeah, I mean, the idea is to make sure that you're the right teacher for them and that they're the right student for you. It's two sides. And I would love to know from those who are watching, because we have a bunch of you right now, what is your first step in your
Mm-hmm.
inquiry process? Share below. We'd love to hear what you're doing.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. So the second question, let's throw it up here, is like, well, what is the second step, right? So this is where we go full on inquiry.
Yay.
After they do, after they get through your registration form, then what you said. So do you consider the interview lesson your discovery still, or do you consider that like, are you going to do a sales call at the end, like a sales at the end of that interview lesson?
I do
If
a
you
sales
remember.
at the yeah, I know it's been forever. No, but that's how it would work. So they fill out the registration form. I typically hop on the phone with them, and then the second step is that interview lesson, and that's where we have the sales conversation at the end. And I actually let them know we are going to do
Yes.
that.
Yes. Friends, the easiest way to be a salesperson is to let people know you're going to be a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have this idea that we have to somehow hide or avoid the fact that we're trying to sell somebody something.
Yeah.
And I love you all so very much. So I'm going to say a hard thing. Just remember that I love you when I say this. If you chose to open a business of any kind and you are sole proprietor and you are a nano business or a micro business, you have made the decision to become a salesperson and a marketer.
Yeah.
That is the decision you've made. Now, as you grow, you can hire people to help you with the tactics of that. You can hire people to help you with the plan of that. But at the end of the day, you're the one who answers the questions that any marketing person or branding person or sales team is going to need you to answer in order for them to do the marketing and sales process.
Truth.
So I find that if we're just, and let's be real too, Sarah. I mean, like someone is reaching out to you. What do they think it's going to be for free?
Right.
I mean, they're asking.
And some of them might because they've learned from other people that it was free.
Yeah.
And it gives us an opportunity to let them know this is different here. And you can do that with confidence. But I think if we skip that step where we're like, hey, during this discovery call, here's what we're going to do. And at the end, we're going to discuss how we can work together. If we don't say that up front, then we can start to feel really awkward when we're trying to make the sale at the end. Set the precedent.
Yeah.
You know, let them know that it's going to happen. And then neither one of you need to feel awkward.
Yes. And this brings us to this idea. So in my opinion, after you've had that first step of the discovery call, which is a loss leader, which is something that you're investing your time in as an investment to talk more to the client later, the second step is paid. So they're paying for your time. They're paying. I don't know if that's what your second step is, but that's what I encourage. Is the second step is paid, so that you have time to discuss even more, and then also to sing a little bit or play piano or whatever you need to do to kind of actually figure out if this person is plays an instrument or has an instrument that you are competent and confident to work with. Then in that process, and the book goes through all of this. In fact, I think I even give some timelines about, well, what if you want to do it in 30 minutes? What if you want to do it in 60 minutes? What do you want to do in 90 minutes?
That page is gold.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because, you know, nobody likes math and nobody likes to figure out, you know, if you run one of those calls and you forget like, oh, this is a section that's really important. You know, it's important to see like, oh, I can spend 5 minutes doing this. I can spend, 20 minutes doing this. I love that you came up with that. It's cool.
Thanks. I mean, and again, you know me, Sarah. I'm like, you do what works for you. But I do think sometimes it's helpful to like, here's some options, follow it word by word for a a few inquiries, 20 or 30 inquiries. And then if it doesn't work, change it to fit your thing. Right. But it's like a good place to jump off from. In that
See
discovery,
what Karen just said there?
No
The
math.
hashtag no math.
Yeah. And there are some comments that I kind of want to address too, because I know we're taking
Yeah.
a little bit of time, but I think this is really important. One of the things that's important about the sales process is that you understand that the moment you have the first contact and that first step, your goal is not to sell being in your studio. And I think a lot of people make that mistake. They say, oh, someone's reaching out to me. My goal needs to be to get them to sign a contract. And it goes too fast. And this kind of goes, I want to kind of just highlight what Jenny's saying here. Hi, Jenny. She's saying, I have this process, but I'm not sure if it's like a vetting thing or it's a shooting myself in the foot thing. I think, when it comes to health, so let's just caveat what I'm about to say with personal health, personal risk boundaries are extremely important. What I would offer is we don't know if they're using it as an excuse to not continue because they're on the fence about the masks, or if it's something that they're very committed to and that's a boundary for them and they are just like, nope, not the right person for me. So what might be interesting is if you waited until after this person had more information about you, how you work in terms of the change that you're bringing, the transformation, what your containers are, you had some rapport that you built with this person. And then when it came to kind of the policy discussion, which sometimes can happen even after someone has said yes. Because if you've done a good sales process and they're bought in, they're kind of like, okay, great. Whatever the policies are, I'll follow them. Whatever the prices are, I'll follow them. Or I'll figure something out. You might just experiment and see, what if I brought that up later in the conversation after we have established, again, that I'm the right person for them, that the way that I work with people is transformational and I'm kind of a good fit for that student's personality and they're for mine. And then that the way that I package it, whether it's my tuition or my drop-ins or whatever, is the right fit for them. Then we bring up the masking and we can see if that changes anything. Do it maybe with your next 5 or 10 inquiries and just see what happens. If it doesn't matter, then you have some more data than you did before, right?
That's a great suggestion.
Thanks. Liz Jackson Hearns is saying, would you have anything to add to that?
I think, Jenny, maybe one thing that you can consider is having a section on your website that explains how masking and having a voice lesson, it doesn't mean that the voice is going to be any less.
Mm-hmm,
and you can explain how you work with masks in a lesson. And you might suggest like different types of masks that people can use that are more comfortable. So think about that and talk to your current clients who are coming in person and maybe get some testimonials about, how well it's worked for them. So there can be some social proof and there can be some education, and that might help.
Yeah, that's great too. I think you bring up a great point, Sarah, in sales, is that you have to figure out what your goal is before you implement any sort of tactic. So what Sarah and I just did was give you 2 different tactics to kind of solve the problem. Ooh, they're popping in.
Ooh.
Yeah,
we got some good questions.
Yeah. So what is important is that you know your goals. Mm-hmm. If you are in a place where you are trying to grow your studio quickly, you want more time to have conversation, because rapport will always sell better than website. It doesn't matter how good your website is. It doesn't matter how good your copy is. That's not a human being. So if you are really trying to fill up and gain clients, you're going to invest a lot of time in relationship building. If you don't need a lot of clients, then you might do exactly what Sarah said, and you just have it all out there. It's up front. I don't need to worry about it. And then you can have a shortened relationship building conversation in the sales process. What do you think about that, Sarah?
I think that sounds good. I see Karen, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, let me know. She had a question about the goals for the first step versus the second step.
Yes, thank you so much. So the goals of the first step, that's a great question. The goals
Yeah.
of the first step is this person even the right fit? Right? And here's where it can get tricky, right? Because people are like, yep, Susan, it's always on the replay, and we'll probably upload it to my YouTube channel as well. I think a lot of teachers think, oh my gosh, I got an inquiry. I hope I can turn this person into a client, without any real processing around if this person should be a client and you should be their teacher. A good rule of thumb is that great sales means that you're ready and willing to lose sales.
Yep.
Because sales is about fit. It's the right person at the right time. So that discovery session, the goals is, should we even move forward? Do I have what they want? So very practically speaking, what if you only teach classical music and this person is looking for a pop rock teacher?
That's a good example.
Right? What if you are a jazz pianist and this person has always wanted to play Mozart?
Not going to be a match.
Right. These are basic questions that you can then write back and say, oh, I read over you. You sound like such a wonderful student. However, what I do doesn't fit what you need. Here's some ways that I would look for the next person, or here are some teachers that I can pass you off to, right? If you feel comfortable and confident. The goal of the second step is to sell a long-term investment into the studio.
And Michelle, can I just say, I wish that I could travel back in time and tell my 12-year ago self about these steps, because I would have saved so much heartache. And yeah.
So I love, thank you. I'm like, I mean, I got lucky, Sarah. I got to be real with you. I mean, some of you know my story. I've been teaching since high school, which was very upsetting for many professional voice teachers in my area. And I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way that I was really crappy at some things and really good at other things. But one of the things that I figured out pretty quick intuitively was I need to figure out if I'm even, and it was good that I was green. It was good that I didn't know what I was doing yet, because it made me realize that I need to be clear about who I can and cannot teach, as I did it because for self-preservation. I was like, I feel stupid. This person obviously knows more than I do. I can't teach them. So it was more like my ego was stopping me from teaching people, but it taught me really, really early on, I can't teach everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm not
that's
supposed to. Yeah. So the first step is only to get people to buy into the initial fit. In the book, I've been using this initial fit for, maybe 20 years as a thing. It's like Catched On. Have you seen that, Sarah?
I love
people
it.
actually
it pops
say
up everywhere.
It's like, I'm like, oh my God. And I'm going to just pretend that it's my fault because that feels good. So the discovery call is to go into the initial fit. The initial fit is to get the sales conversation about how to move forward as a person in the studio.
Yeah.
And I hope that is good. It's like an interview process. The goal of your resume isn't to get a job. The goal of your resume is to get the interview. And then the interview is to get the next interview, and the next interview to get the next, whatever the process is. And then here's the offer and the negotiation and the job. Right? I hope that was answerful to you, Karen.
So we have one more step, right?
We do have one more step. Can you look through the questions really quick and see if you see any one?
I'm not seeing any other questions. I do love what Liz Jackson Hearn says about giving customers agency. Letting them know that you're selling to them empowers them to make their own best choice, which is awesome. That's gold. Thank you, Liz.
Yes. So that third step is that sales. It's making the offer so that we sign a contract. So Sara, you hearkened to this earlier. You said, I let them know up front in the initial fit call, this is what we're going to do. Y'all, this is the smartest. You must do this. Just tell people how the call is going to go in any sales call, whether it's voice or you have another product or you have another offer. You might remember what was one of the first things that I did at the beginning of this live? Hey, we're going to talk to you about this stuff, and then I'm going to sell you my book.
Talk to you. Yeah, we're going to sell you a book.
I'm going to talk about my book. I'm going to sell to you. And this goes back to kind of what Liz was saying about agency, right? Like that means if you're like, I don't feel like being sold to today, peace, you can leave and not have to worry about that. So Sara, talk a little bit more about when you do, because I know you do this in your business coaching service, marketing coaching, as well as do I. How do you give agency in that initial fit in any process? Do you just say it up front? Do you tell them like, here are the things we're going to do today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I've actually revisited this process recently because I was doing a systems audit essentially. And I noticed that some people were booking this discovery call and thinking that it was just coaching. And I thought to myself, I have not been clear somewhere. So I clarify that in multiple touch points at this point. So it's like there before you even click on the button to book the call. It's there as you're booking the call. It says like at the end of this call, we will have a discussion about how we can work moving forward and what package would be good for you. Yeah. And I also say it at the beginning of the call. And I let people know, I've read through your inquiry form. I'm going to ask some follow-up questions and you'll get to ask me questions too. And then in the last 10 minutes of this call, we're going to discuss how we could work moving forward, or if we are not a good fit, where you might find help.
Yeah, that's great. Sounds very familiar.
Right? Well, I learned it from you. Well, I learned to be clearer about it from you.
Yeah, I think clarity is the key, but this goes back. You have to, the good hard work of business ownership, friends, is that you understand what you're doing.
Yep.
And that's the hardest part. People, you can get scripts, you can get templates, you can get all of these things. You can get the book, but at the end of the day, you still have decisions to make. And that's why we have our decision making in the book. There's like, these are the decisions you have to make. It's not, here's what you need to do right away. It's, these are your decisions. And then once you've made these decisions, these are the action steps you take. Because business ownership is about constant decision making, which is, side note, why I am such high value on decision fatigue and having your time and energy be your most valuable resource rather than money. So anyway, understand what you're doing. Big yes. And then, oh, thanks, Amanda. That's really sweet. So that third step is sales. Number one, you tell someone that you're going to sell to them. You're at the end of the call. Use transitional language, friends. You can look at your clock. You can just say it. We're at the time of this session where we talk about moving forward. I'm going to just assume, because we only have a few more minutes left today, that this is a good fit. So I'm not going to talk about what if it's a bad fit today. That's in the book. You can read it. It's a good fit. You say, okay, we're at the time where we talk about moving forward. You just say it. I'm feeling really good about this. Let me tell you a little bit about what I've learned about you today. These are the things that I see that you need. These are the things that you have told me. We're not telling someone what is wrong with their voice. We are not telling them what we need to fix in their piano technique. We are not telling them what sucks about them. That is not what this is. This is you being an active listener through that whole call, and making mental notes and saying, these are the things you said to me that you want to see different in your voice or your piano or whatever it is. These are the ways that what I do can help solve that and make that change for you. Yeah. Now, you tell me, how does that sound?
And they're going to be like, heck yes, sign me up.
Right. Have they asked for your policies? No. Have they asked the pricing? No. Then you say, awesome. There are 3 ways we can do that. Or 1 way, if you're just in a 1 way, if you only do 1 way. The reason why I like 3 ways is because, ideal client, when we're starting out with ideal client, it's really important that we kind of understand, generally speaking, ideal client, right? This is my ideal client. As you get more and more familiar with your umbrella ideal client, you're going to realize there's a lot of other factors that go into ideal client, like readiness to buy, commitment level to the process, economic bracket, right? So having 3 different offers that kind of serve 3 subsets of the ideal client in terms of readiness to buy and commitment level and maybe economic bracket, that's just an example, can be helpful to ease the sales process, because now you're not trying to like shove people into that one thing that you do. You know what I mean? You can just be like, I'm not saying you have to do that. If it works for you, you do what works for you. But it can be something if you're struggling with sales. If you keep on hearing the same response, it's too expensive, or I don't have the time for that, or whatever the same response is, that's when it's time to go back to your offer and just be like, what can I do to package this differently?
That's a great point.
Yeah. So, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought again. I told you this is going to happen, Sarah.
That's okay. Hey, we made it like 45 minutes in before you lost your train. I think that's pretty good.
I'm so impressed with myself. See, this is why I call it Speaking Easy with Michelle. It's just to let myself off the hook of being all formulaic, right? Self-preservation. Okay, so then you ask the questions, great, here's the package, and then you're going to talk about price. This is the way we pay, this is how much it is, and again, friends, if you signed up to be a business owner, my loves, you have to be okay with saying your price out loud to a face.
Yeah.
And the first several times you might go into the bathroom and throw up, and that's okay. The first several times when you get to your new price point, which is another discussion that you can read all about on the blog.
For another day.
Another day. But it's okay. You are selling a thing on purpose, and they are there to buy a thing on purpose. Remember that. When do you, so in my opinion, based on what I see working, I know Amanda had put in here that she actually sends her info and policies up front first. Mm-hmm. Personally, I usually wait until after we've established that it's even a good fit and that what we're working on, the dreams and visions and goals can be met. Then the policies to me are like the terms and conditions button that you click. Because let's be real, nobody's reading your policies anyway. And your policies only become important when someone is not happy with a decision that they have made about their time and their money. Mm-hmm. Okay. So your policies are more like, great, we're going to say yes. Here's how we do this, mm-hmm. which they're not going to read. And then you're going to be like, no, they didn't read my policy when they come back. And you're like, of course they didn't read your policy, because people don't read. You and I don't read sometimes. Like, that's the way it is. So to me, I don't send that stuff till later, unless it's a sticking point in that inquiry. Well, I need a lot of flexibility. I'm on tour. Like, something I get is I'm on tour a lot. Do I have to do weekly? Right. And it's like, oh, well, mm-hmm. you should know my cancellation policy. You should not sign up for my monthly retainer if you're going to be gone 3 times every month. You should just do drop-ins. Right. That's about knowing your offer and what they need. And then from there, this is how we're going to move forward. You can right there in the lesson, get them on the calendar for the next time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you do in that way, Sarah?
I think to answer, like, I do it a couple different ways. So mm-hmm. the pricing normally comes up after they've filled out that registration form, like the inquiry form, we've hopped on the phone, and typically I do discuss price at that point because I had a waiting list
Yeah.
and I don't have time to give somebody an interview lesson if the price is going to be like a huge objection point for them. And I'm much higher priced than most people in my area. So I didn't want it to be a surprise to anyone. So the pricing I bring up at that point, but then the rest of the policies, that is saved for the end of the interview lesson where I go over like, this is how we work. Here's, how the policy function or the studio functions. So that's typically when I do it.
Yeah.
And I would go through all of that and I sign people up right there. They write a check or we put together the online invoice and they pay while they're there and they're booked. They're ready to go. And I'm excited when I say goodbye to them to say, okay, great. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you brought us around to this idea that like when, everyone's like, when should I talk about price? Should I put my price on the website? It depends. You have a decision to make. And to that end, you can add and take away parts of this process depending on what your sales goals are. If you know you need to get people into a high ticket program, you will need a robust sales journey. Yeah. That's just the way it is. If you are full to the brim, you have a waiting list and you don't have any time for that, it's like, these are my prices. Here's the link to book. Looking forward to seeing you.
Exactly.
You have some flexibility depending on what, what's that word that I want to use? Like the state that your business is in. And then let's say it gets a little slow and you need to fill it up again. You add back in that discovery call, you add back in. Some people call these barriers to entry. I don't think they're barriers to entry. I really don't. I think that the more relationship you build in a one-on-one service-based business, the higher the likelihood that you will, when it's the right fit, convert that person into a client and begin a beautiful, beautiful transformational relationship with them. So Sara, I know that we have a meeting in 7 minutes.
I have a cat hair that's floating around on my glasses too. I've been grabbing at it this whole time.
I want to point this out really quick before you say your final words. Your final words. So proud of you, MJ. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. We have,
that's great.
Hold on, I'm reading. I do it because I guess. Yeah, so this is a great point. This is just what we were just talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yep. So you want to wrap us up?
Sure. So y'all, you've been listening to us for almost an hour.
Thank you.
And we've dropped a lot of cool stuff about the inquiry process. And if you would like to know more about this, and if you would like to be able to visit your inquiry process and streamline it in a way so that it's truly going to feed your business, it's going to allow you to not think hard about making decisions because you're actually going to have systems in place, y'all need this book. It's called The Art of the Inquiry, and we have it available for sale at thespeakeasycooperative.com. Michelle, do you want to tell them a little bit about the pricing structure?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's really cool.
Something I'm so proud of. So we are doing something called equitable pricing. So there are actually 3 or 4 or whatever you want. Thank you, Daniel. When Daniel says it's a good book as an author, that makes me feel very happy inside. We're doing some experimenting with equitable pricing. So what this means is that you can buy this book for $9 and buy the team black coffee. You can buy this book for $15, which is buying the team a little bit fancier coffee. You can buy the team lunch. So all of the work and the editing and the formatting and the writing and the back and forth, and Keith getting, all the stuff on the website. You can buy us lunch for $50, or you can pay your own price. And by the way, which is anything you want to pay. You want to pay me $1,000 for this thing? If that's the value that you see in it, which by the way, if you streamline your inquiry process and you are able to make $10,000 more in a year because you have implemented something like this, or you're able to convert people more quickly, what would you value this book at? If I asked you for 10%, if I asked you for 1% of your revenue and you made $100,000, right? So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to say, listen, we understand that not everybody's in the same place. There's going to be some people who do value it at 1% of their $100,000 revenue. But if you're brand new, we wanted to make it accessible to you as well. So that lowest price point, that $9 covers the team. It covers the cost of making it. And then once we, if people want to invest more, they're able to do that. And we can kind of really give coffee to the team. That's what our goal is. But we're experimenting with this as part of our commitment to ethical sales. So something that is really, really important to me, really important to Sara, is ethical marketing and ethical sales, and what an agency-driven sales. And so that's why we have multiple price points. There's an Easter egg, by the way. If you put different price points in the pay what you want, you'll get little fun messages. So you should play around with that and see. We made up messages for you. So at least play around with that and put all different price points.
That works mostly on mobile, right?
It works on everything.
Okay, I'll have to double check it. So
yeah,
I remember seeing it on my phone.
It should work on everything, or we should tag in Keith to fix it. So everyone, thank you so much. And then you said if people want the link or anything, you can drop inquiry. Is that what you said, Sara?
That's right. So Michelle has dropped the link in the comments, and if you scroll way up, you can find it. But if you do want to get a hold of that link, if you drop the word inquiry down below, then one of the team members will reach out to you, and we'll make sure that you can get a hold of that link.
Perfect. Sara, it's so much fun to just hang out with you and be together with you and shoot the breeze. Thank you so much for being here today, taking time out of your day for me.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been really fun.
All right. We'll talk to you later, everyone. Off to sell some things. Bye.